Right, good morning, ladies and gents. Welcome back to Sofa Safari. My name's Luke, and I'll be taking you out today. I know it's been about 2 or 3 weeks since you saw me, and my hair is still very long, and I just haven't had a chance to cut it yet. So please excuse the mullet. I did, however, trim my beard for you all, so I hope you appreciate that. But as myself and Britt were getting going this morning, just from our house, which is back here, this is our little staff village. Tula is just here on the left-hand side. You can maybe see our fence running there that keeps the elephants out. But as we came out of our driveway, we were confronted by 4 very fat hyenas, of which there's still one over here. The other 2 are busy sniffing around inside our camp at the moment. I mean, it's not uncommon for us at Tula to have uh, these sneaky beasts moving in and around the camp every night, getting up to mischief. But this morning it's quite interesting because they all have very, very fat stomachs. So they've obviously gotten up to some mischief last night. I'm not too sure what that is at the moment. There are some monkeys alarm calling from the direction where they just came from. So maybe they displaced the leopard off its kill, or maybe some lions off of their kill. I'm not too sure, but they are very fat, which would suggest that they've had a pretty decent meal in the last couple of hours. So yeah, let's follow them for a little bit. They still look like they're looking for a bit of mischief, as they always are. But yeah, let's see what they get up to this morning. Stick around, guys. Of course, hyenas get such a bad rep throughout the natural world, not only from humans but from every other animal they encounter, or every other predator they encounter. They just can't stand hyenas. They're quite a pesky animal to deal with. But as I've said in previous episodes, hyenas do still hunt a good 60-70% of the time for themselves. And so when you hear that going on, it's quite a chaotic thing to hear happening throughout the bush. It's very noisy, it's very aggressive. But then again, when lions kill something, it's also very noisy and very aggressive. So, you know. Let's quickly shoot around and see what they're all getting up to. They're running now through the bush here. And that is the beautiful call of a hyena. Right guys, so the hyenas are running down the road. We're going to keep following them. I can smell something horrible in the air as well, so maybe there's a killer around. There's another one moving at the back. Really quite interesting. I mean, we encounter these few hyenas as we get going. Good morning. And you know, immediately they're looking quite fat. Their tails are up, their hair standing up. They're looking quite excited or surprised or nervous about something. Then the next minute they encounter each other again, and that makes the tails go up. And then suddenly one of them starts calling somewhere in this direction here, and they all start running here. So, I mean, who doesn't want to investigate what's going on when that happens? There we go, we got hyenas running out of the bush. Some calling over here. He's taking off. Let's get a closer look, guys. Good morning. Can't focus. Okay, I'm going to go in here. I'll put these two going nuts all over here. Might be cats here in the bush. I'm just trying to see what's going on.
Ja, man har inne right junction, right all that way, Rockyard.
is very interesting, ladies and gents. We'll just have to see what's going on. There's more hyenas calling here. There's a bunch over here. I happen to know this block very well. It's a hard block to get a Land Cruiser around it. They're about 37 feet long. But, you know, I'll make it work. We do miss our Land Rovers. I smell the stinky smell of something that has died. But I'm not too sure which way to go now, folks, because these hyenas, they keep running in here and then everyone just ran back there like a bunch of muppets. He's got blood on his mouth. Over here.
Okay, I'm Rich. I see one of you here. Did you go? Where did you access the block?
I came off shortcut straight north into the block, not far from Sunset Junction. They've definitely chased something off of the kill somewhere here, or they've killed something themselves, but I don't know. It's very confusing.
Luke, you got the Luke?
Standing by.
Luke, there's hyenas calling across camp.
Copy, thank you very much, guys. I am with these hyenas at the moment. Dale, maybe just quickly confirm, do you mean Hugo's drive side or shortcut side?
No, across you guys drive, probably down closer to your place.
Right, guys, so the hyenas are up and down here, then everywhere. They're calling, they're yapping. Some of them have blood on them. So I've got two theories. Either there's two clans that are having a bit of a territorial dispute, or there's maybe a kill in the area which is making the hyenas a little bit giddy. While we were in the block, I could see some vultures sitting up in a tree here, so I'm hoping that those vultures will be our ticket to a beautiful kill. Well, as beautiful as a kill can be, really. And yeah, hopefully we get a great sighting for this morning. Not that this hasn't been interesting so far. Yeah, stick around, let's see what happens. Right, ladies and gents. Up there in the tree, we also have a Battalier eagle, which is very close to where these vultures are. Not uncommon to see a Battalier around a potential kill site because they are actually a scavenging eagle. They're not an eagle that hunts all that often for themselves. We've come up to the tree now where our white-backed vultures are sitting. And I don't know if there was really a kill. I think these vultures may have just been sleeping in the area. You know, they also do need to sleep. And generally speaking, if you find vultures in the area, it doesn't always mean that there's a kill around. It, you know, it just means that they're waking up for the day. And of course, waiting for the hot air to start rising, which can take a few hours in the morning. As soon as that hot air starts to rise, then you get what's called a thermal, which means air starts to rise like this. And when you see a vulture circling, it's doing that. So vultures usually wait for those thermals to start producing, or start to the creation of them coming off the ground, because that hot air rising actually helps them get their incredible mass and weight for what they are. I mean, they're a bird, but even this white-backed vulture here can weigh, I believe somewhere between 5 and 7 kilograms, which is really heavy for a bird. And so they need that hot air rising to help them also rise, and that's why you see them circling. So contrary to popular belief in the movies, when you see vultures circling, they're not circling. You know, vultures don't circle something that's dead. When they see something to eat, they just fly down and eat. You know, the best way I can sum this up for you is, when you're hungry, you don't circle McDonald's. You just drive into McDonald's. So yeah, whenever you see vultures circling, it means they're actually going up, not down. If you see them doing this, it means they're coming down for something to eat. But yeah, I'm not too sure what's happened. All of a sudden, all the hyenas have disappeared. Everyone's gone super quiet. We've turned off for a while. We've listened. There's no bones crunching. There's nothing going on. So I don't know. My theory is now that this was, so I'm just listening, is that this was a meeting between two rival clans that were having a bit of a tiff with each other. So that's my theory. I'm not too sure. We'll still drive around the area and see. Maybe we can pick up on a lion kill or something like that that's causing all the hyenas to be a bit jittery. But I think by now we would have either heard that lion kill or actually seen it. So yeah, lions are not the quietest things when they're eating themselves, or also when they're dealing with hyenas. But nice to see some whiteback vultures, and to see the bateleur eagle, and to of course see the hyenas, which is one of my favorite animals out here. So there's no such thing as a bad day that starts with hyenas out in Africa. But unless you're on the receiving end of those hyenas, of course. Yeah, let's carry on for the morning. I have to see how I can get out of this block. It's a bit tricky with these big Land Cruisers. As I say, we are definitely missing our Land Rovers. And for all of you that are Land Cruiser fans, Land Rovers are just better. I'm sorry. But yeah, let's carry on. So folks, what we're doing is, obviously we're still looking for our hyena drama going on. We'll circle the area and see if that does produce anything. But at this point in time, we're also just stopping to enjoy the dawn chorus and all the birds.
Ja, ik heb het voor me zien.
Alright, just kind of, sorry, just someone updating me on what these hyenas are doing. But yeah, nice little bird party going on, and the birds that you're looking at the moment are called southern black tits. Quite a strange name, but yeah, quite a common bird to see around as well. You often encounter them just by themselves, but you know, as you can see, there's 2 or 3. There was even a 4th and 5th one that flew past me back here on the right hand side or the left hand side. So yeah, another nice new bird. I don't think we've ever shown that one on Sofa Safari. So there we go. And then we've got calls of Franklin in the background. There's also a brew calling. There's a boater lark calling. There's always the classic blue waxbills calling somewhere or other. But yeah, everybody's just saying good morning and reclaiming their territory. But yeah, let's carry on, folks. I see our southern black tits have flown off. So let's see what else we can find. Always nice to happen upon a group of zebra, guys. Such an iconic animal and so pretty. It doesn't matter, you know, we see them every day, but every day they're still just as beautiful as the last. Right guys, so coming down into the Shaolumi River, we've just left our buffalo and elephant tracks behind, and this might be the little herd of elephants that left the tracks originally, just crossing the riverbed there. Little guy still in the middle, fiddling around with some sand, having a bit of a sand bath. That's always quite nice to see. We are a very long way away at the moment, but with safari you don't always have to be right next to the animal to appreciate them, and often watching an elephant crossing a riverbed like this, or a herd of elephants crossing a riverbed like this, is quite a nice inspiring way to start your morning. So let's catch up with them on the other side. There is luckily a road that runs basically parallel to where they're walking at the moment, or perpendicular I guess would be the right word. So yeah, let's catch up with them and get nice and close and scare Brit a bit. Get the blood flow this morning. Get the blood flowing this morning. Got a young elephant here busy doing a bit of gardening this morning. Trying to get to the nice delicious leaves at the top of that branch. I'm not too sure how many elephants are moving through the bush here, but we can slowly just start hearing more and more of them sort of munching their way through grass and trees and leaves. So what we're going to do is just wait for them to kind of approach us and see if they come and give us a sniff. See how he uses his, or her, I'm not too sure at this point, how it uses its tusk and trunk, there we go, to do what he needs to do. It's basically like having the most formidable knife and fork you could ever ask for. Great amount of leverage comes from using those two items or two appendages together. Love elephants. You just saw her now. She picked up and moved a stick or a nice big branch that was potentially covering something that she really wanted to get to. So, you know, a lot of people harper on the whole fact that elephants do a lot of damage and they push over trees and they cause just environmental mayhem. Whereas in actual fact, a lot of these trees owe their lives to elephants, you know, just because of the amount of dung and seed that elephants move around. Probably many of these trees are here because once upon a time a ball of elephant dung dropped where that elephant was, or where it is growing now. But also elephants do push over trees fairly often to get to the roots and the canopy, and a lot of people see that as a very negative attribute of an elephant or characteristic. But you know, where that tree falls over, and I'll have to show you a bit later in the video, but where a tree falls over, it usually spurs new life. You know, that tree will then allow things to grow in a pretty safe environment underneath its dead canopy. You know, new trees, new growth, new babies, baby trees, grass, etc. So it is quite a good system. You know, a dead tree offers cover for new trees to grow through. At the same time, whenever it rains or, you know, something like that, dew coming down, slowly but surely the nutrients from that dead tree begin to leach into the soil underneath it, and that then allows those new young trees that are growing underneath, or the new young grass growing underneath, to take full advantage of all of that nutrients. All right. And lastly, when a tree falls over, it offers an incredible habitat for smaller animals such as field mice, scrub hares, porcupines, a lot of the little ground birds, and etc., etc., snakes, all sorts of things, to actually formalize or to create themselves a home within that fallen over tree. So, you know, don't take an elephant pushing over a tree as face value, just damage, useless. It really is part of the ecosystem. It's something that they do. It's something that they've done for millions of years, and it's something that we should not disallow them at this point in time. However, we also have to be quite prudent and pragmatic as far as how we think about these things. Sorry, quick photograph. Missed it. But we have to think about these things in depth. And the Kruger National Park and the Greater Kruger and the Limpopo Transfrontier Park, which I spoke about in an episode previous where I drew in the sand for you, is a very, very, very large area, but it also has its limitations in terms of size. And so we have to be very careful about animal populations and what they can do to an environment, because they cannot move away anymore. There is a boundary to a lot of these places that you have to bear in mind when thinking about their numbers. And so things like elephants will continue to reproduce and reproduce and reproduce. They're a very intelligent animal, and when things are going well, they reproduce. They're very similar to human beings. And I think at the moment in the Kruger National Park, I think across the entire open system, I think there's about 22,000 elephants that call this area home. That number may have gone up, and it usually goes up quite a lot every year because elephants are very successful at reproducing. So in other words, the elephant population is ever growing, and there's been a number of studies that have come out that would suggest that one elephant needs about 1,000 hectares to sustainably live. So 1,000 hectares, remember a hectare for our American friends is 100 meters by 100 meters, which is basically 100 yards by 100 yards. So they need 1,000 hectares in order to live sustainably per elephant. Now, if we think about the entire Kruger National Park, and the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, the Greater Kruger, sitting at about, 43,000 hectares? 4.3 million hectares, which means that we can probably sustainably house about 40,000 elephants across the entire system. So at the moment, we're nowhere near reaching our cap. Unfortunately, one of the issues is, and this is something that's a theory, is that most of the elephants remain in the South African side, the Kruger National Park side, the Greater Kruger National Park side, because they know it is a safer alternative than moving into Mozambique, into the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park, or moving north into Zimbabwe, into the Ghana Reserve. They know that South Africa is a safer place in terms of poaching and in terms of just human exploitation of the species, and so they tend to stay within South Africa. So one way that we might be able to spur elephants into moving into these places, into the new areas that are being joined onto this beautiful system, all the time in different countries, is to offer them more protection in those countries. Help Mozambique, help Zimbabwe. And so I often say to people, come on a South African safari for sure, but if you're thinking about doing another safari at the same time, you want to change countries, go to either Zimbabwe, to that southern sector, or go to Mozambique. And I mean, Mozambique can definitely use all the tourism it can get at the moment, particularly for its wildlife. Remember, guys, just by going on safari, you are a conservationist. You are paying to protect these animals. And as soon as we cannot pay for them to be protected through tourism, then people will find other ways to make money off of these areas. It's unfortunately the nature of a capitalist world. But yeah, I will talk to you a bit later about that elephant tree, when trees get knocked down, and some of the ways that we are trying to protect trees so that elephant populations can continue to grow without them pushing over all of these big established trees that we see around here, or gouging into them to eat the bark. So I'll show you how we are going about that. And of course that's done, as I say, so the elephants don't damage them, so we can allow their numbers to get bigger. Because for those of you that are interested in conservation and in safari, you may have heard of something called culling, which is never a nice thing to do, but it's basically bringing a population of a species back to within manageable numbers for the ecosystem to support. So we want to avoid that at all costs, and so some people have come up with some different strategies to try and manage elephants and the damage that they do to these areas. So yeah, stick around. But for now, we're just going to hang out with these Ellies. If something cool happens, I'll definitely pop back on camera and talk to you about it. But it's just so sweet to watch them all moving peacefully through the bush. They're beautiful. Nice to meet you too. Right guys, so luck is on our side. We have found Nyeleti with her little cub. Not so little anymore, it's getting quite big, but they're busy moving along a obviously very man-made weir, old dam that would have been put in place here many years ago. So yeah, little one is up there sniffing on the top of the dam now, or the weir, And Nyeleti, the full-grown female, is somewhere on the other side. She's kind of gone out of view now. But it's always wonderful to see young leopards kind of just exploring their environment and getting to know where it is that they live. It's a strange place to actually be seeing this particular leopard with her cub, because it's quite far out of her presumed territory. But then again, what do we know really? You know, these cats and dogs and whatever get up to all sorts of mischief. The African fish eagle. Jeez, like. That was great. So an African fish eagle just swooped down, tried to grab something, and Nyeleti is now there where that fish eagle dropped whatever it is that she was looking for. Okay, you got them?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, there we go. You can see a little cubby now coming up towards his mom, busy fiddling around on the bank. It was quite interesting. An African fish eagle, which looks very similar to a bald eagle for our American friends, swooped down, tried to catch something there, and then flew off, I think, because the leopard was kind of there. The bird wet itself, you know, for lack of a better term. Oh, there's a little bit of play. Cubby trying to stalk up on his mom. But yeah, so straight away Nyeleti went to investigate what the African fish eagle dropped, and it doesn't look like she found very much. The fish eagle is still just sitting in the tree, calling. You might hear it. Of course, when I say that, it doesn't make any noise at all. But if you hear kind of like a whack, whack in the background, that's the fish eagle, who's a little bit upset with the whole situation here today. There he is. So cute, man. Check, they're gonna play now. Little baby's trying to stalk his mom. Here he goes. And pump! She was onto him. Yeah, little guy's going for another drink. Oh, now he's gonna stalk. Oh, there he goes. Magnificent. What an awesome sighting of Nyeleti and her cub. It's been a long time since I saw that leopard, never mind her cub. The last time I saw that cub, it was barely even a sighting. It was just a little fur ball running through the grass, and you know, we kind of gave it all the space it needed, because you want to be careful of these little guys. But I'm so happy to see that the cub is looking very confident and sure of itself, and the vehicles don't seem to have any issues. You know, he just walked straight by us. So wonderful to spend some time with them. It was very cool. It was a little bit tricky trying to follow them. They were walking through this very thick bush on the river bank and trying to keep up with them and just see what they get up to. But very fun to watch the little one stalking and pouncing his mom and her also playing along with him. So yeah, very, very, very cool sighting, and I hope that gives you guys a little bit of a leopard fix. Nice to see a leopard cub as well. 2 leopards for the price of 1. Woohoo! So yeah, let's see what else the morning holds. It's getting quite late now. We've seen a lot this morning. It's been really, really cool. Had the hyenas, the elephants, the leopard. So yeah, let's start bumbling on home. And if anything cool pops up along the way, I'll definitely show you. And I still want to show you maybe or explain a little bit more about that whole elephant thing that I was talking to you about a bit earlier. So yeah, stick around. Let's see what else is out there. Right, guys, so before we end the morning, and it's been a great morning, I wanted to quickly touch on, if you remember what I was talking about earlier on in the video, about what elephants do and the damage they do and how we're trying to limit that damage. Now, one of the big things that elephants do is they use their tusks to dig into trees to peel the bark off, to get the inner bark, which we call the cambium layer. That's really what they want to feed on. But unfortunately, what happens is often elephants, because they're just so immense and maybe because they're just so hungry, they sometimes peel the bark off all the way around a tree, which basically means like you're cutting off its cardiovascular system. That tree can no longer send nutrients up to the leaves and glucose back down to the roots, and it essentially starts to die. Another way that it dies is just by an elephant breaking off a piece of that bark, and then basically what it's doing is removing the armor from the outside of the tree, and that then allows things like wood-boring beetles and termites to get into the tree, and then ultimately the tree will die. So like I was saying a bit earlier, these areas are limited in the amount of wildlife that they can support. They aren't endless forever and ever. I wish they were. I wish Africa was still just Africa, you know, but these days there's a lot of human encroachment. And what that means is that we have to have boundaries and borders to these game reserves or to these wilderness areas. And that means that we have to monitor the populations, particularly of the elephants, because they do cause a lot of damage when there's a lot of them. So I'm just looking over here. There's a whole bunch of vultures coming up. That's where we were looking at the hyenas this morning. So hopefully we didn't miss something too great, but cool to see the vultures catching the thermals now and going up for the day. You should start to see them circling sooner rather than later. There we go, starting to circle now. So that means that they're going up for the day, riding that warm air rising. Anyway, so we have to try and manage elephant numbers, and because we don't want to go back to culling like we did in the 80s and 90s, we've tried to come up with different ways to stop elephants from doing this damage. And at the request of Ricky Hartog, I wanted to explain what we've done to this tree. So come on over, Britt, let me show you guys. So you have a look, this is a big, beautiful marula tree. It's one of the favorite trees of elephants to eat. They love to dig their tusks in here, peel the bark off and eat it. You can actually see where an old elephant tusk went straight in there. That's exactly where an elephant tusk was once. And then they'll peel off the bark to feed on it. So you can see a bit of old damage going up the tree. So what we've done is we've come and we've covered these trees with this fencing wire. And I know it's not the most sightly thing to see, but it is conservation at work. And it's just there to try and stop the elephants from digging their tusks in. Now, of course, an elephant is very big, and this can probably get broken by an elephant fairly easily. But it seems to be a pretty good deterrent at this point in time, and it doesn't seem to have any negative effects. Now, there are a few other places or areas that have tried to nail a can to the tree. So what they do is they just get like a baked bean can, empty it, obviously, clean it, and then they nail it to the tree, and they actually fill that can with two things, well, one of two things, either creosote or sugar water. Now, the reason we do it with creosote is because elephants have a very strong sense of smell, and they don't like the smell of creosote. Nobody does. But the only negative, well, it's a big negative, is that creosote is incredibly polluting, and that we don't really want to have that out here in the environment. But it does seem to be a beneficial action to take to stop elephants from damaging the tree. The second liquid that they might put inside that can is sugar water. But sugar water evaporates very quickly, so you have to keep going around and filling up all these trees, and there's millions of trees, guys, so yeah, you drive yourself crazy. But the reason we put sugar water in, it attracts bees, and that buzzing sound that the bees bring with them, theoretically, the elephants don't like that, so they stay away from the tree. So that's what they're trying to do there. So I think this is the best route to take. Now, we did have some concerns about leopards going up and down the trees. but so far so good. We've seen leopards going up and down them, no problem at this point in time, and it has stopped elephants from damaging the trees to some extent. So success, yes, because it means that we can allow the elephant population to grow while limiting the damage that they might do to some of these big established trees. And for those of you that have been on safari often or know a good thing about the bush, try think, when was the last time you saw a baby marula? This is a tree that needs to be protected. So yeah, we're trying our best. Anyway, guys, that's it for this week. We did get a very cool sighting of Thombela female leopard or leopardess the other day, which I spoke to you about earlier just before we saw Nyeleti. So we are going to show you some of that footage because Thombela's never been seen on Sofa Safari before. She's a wonderful leopard. She's quite old now. I think she's probably approaching about 13, 14, maybe even 15 years of age, but she's a big girl, and you'll see in the footage just how big she is. She's quite a muscular girl, and she comes from a very famous lineage in this area. In fact, Nyeleti, the leopard we just saw with her cub, is Thombela's younger sister, so obviously from a different litter, but they share a similar or the same mom, which was Rockfig Jr., which was just a famous, wonderful leopard that was here when myself and Britt first started almost 5 years ago in this area. Unfortunately, Rockfig Jr. has now passed on. We haven't seen her for years now, which indicates that she's either been killed or died naturally, but she has left behind a great sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Legacy. There we go, I guess. Thank you, Britt. So we've got Thombela. She's given birth to a number of cubs. We've then got Thombela's daughter in Kaya, which we find in the south. Then we have Nyeleti with her new son, and then her daughter in Weti, which we find in the northeast. So they're all over the show. It's a great lineage to have in the area. But yeah, it was great footage watching her walk around Mashatten Dam having a drink. Well, we thought she was going to have a drink. Eventually she went and lay up on the dam wall, and of course, you know, you don't have to ask twice, the sneaky hyena comes always lingering around looking for where he can get in on some action. And it was just so funny because as soon as Thombela looked at him, gave a little bit of a snarl, the hyena quite sheepishly just turned around and pretended this actually wasn't where he parked his car, and just casually sauntered off into the evening. And then we left her there where she carried on for the night. We were very fortunate. The reason we found Thombela is because of Mrs. Haley Jackson and her two boys, Quinn and Duke. They were at Mashatten Dam having a bit of fun there, and the next minute they heard a leopard calling. So Haley called myself and Britt, and we quickly shot over there to try and get you guys some footage. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and thank you very much, Haley. And Ricky, I hope that answers your question, or if you appreciate my explanation of this. So yeah, it's a huge job to do this. There's many trees in Africa, but one at a time we will try and protect them in this regard. We also have to remember to leave food for the elephants though. Anyway, guys, have a wonderful day wherever you are. Enjoy your gin and tonic, your hot chocolate, your cup of coffee, and stay safe, guys. See you next time.